What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Guys on Sports and a very weird, strange championship Sundays in the books.
Go Birds!
Terrible refereeing.
Yes.
Weird injuries.
Wah.
I'm not complaining. Just it was a very strange day. It was a super strange game, that first one for sure.
It was, yeah.
Ghost catches.
And you're just seeing a guy and
turn the tides.
Oh, let's make it 24-7
That's
instead,
so
Mark.
bad. But that being said, we got a few things in store for you today. We will touch on that probably a little bit, but we're going to talk a little fantasy. Zach said we should talk about some guys that we might have forgotten about with injuries this year. And we'll touch on some of those guys you might want to keep your mind on, maybe try to trade for if you're in a dynasty league. And then we'll talk about the 49ers and what they're going to do at quarterback, because there's a lot of questions there with Purdy's injury, with Lance's injury, and with Garoppolo's non-committal from the 49ers to stick with him. But let's go to Zach and get our social comments for the week. What do you got, guy?
Yeah, so last week we talked about some fantasy players, mostly quarterbacks, who would be the number one quarterback in fantasy next year. We threw out some predictions. Mr. Browns fan himself, Rocky, that's not here today. He was pitching how Watson could be that number one guy, definitely top 5, definitely top 10, he said. Tua Tagovailoa on TikTok said the only thing Watson is becoming is an inmate, which I found was kind of funny.
Well, he beat the case, guy. Come on.
Well, it sticks with him forever. The second one
Turning
was
the ball over. That's fucking awesome.
that's a good one. This TikTok name isn't as fun. New York Giants fangirl said, "Love that DJ is finally getting some respect because."
Oh, thank you, New York Giants fangirl. Wow, finally some Giants love.
Yeah, Phil said that Daniel Jones is a franchise quarterback and would be the franchise quarterback he'd pick.
Hey, let's not forget the calls I made on the Giants before the season started, okay? Put a little respect on my name.
I guess you are a pretty reasonable Giants fan.
I am pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
Or there's
I'll
a
give you
lot of
that.
bias there.
Not really. I'm dialed in. Was I right or wrong?
You were right.
The only thing I was wrong about that they didn't win the
I
division.
played the fifth.
But who knew that the Eagles were going to be a friggin'
I think I picked
a
the Giants
wagon
to
this
make
year.
the playoffs too.
You rode my coattails on that.
I think I said it first.
I don't think you did.
Yeah, because you came to me after the show. You were like, "You are so brave for saying that. Do
I
you
did
mind?
not
Do you mind if I
Then they
if
shared
I
a sweet,
jump in your
passionate
wagon?"
kiss.
No.
So-
I'll never jump in your wagon.
Mark did say a few things last week.
he
He did
did.
pick Brock Purdy to be his franchise quarterback,
Yeah.
but somehow just started talking shit about Trevor Lawrence in the intro to that pick.
Yeah.
Kyle Jones 096 said, "If Trevor is on the Niners, then they win the Super Bowl." Laughing emoji. Purdy's first hit he takes all year and he gets injured. LMAO.
Yeah, but that was followed up by somebody else that said he's been rocked a couple of times. I guess you don't watch games, guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are the
Sick
comments.
burn.
Well, I didn't do it, but
Burn.
somebody came to my defense because they know that I'm just spitting facts. Trevor
Mark's
Lawrence,
burner account.
All right,
Ellen,
take it
Ellen,
easy.
Ellen DeGeneres Lawrence is not going to take that team to the Super Bowl. I don't care what you say.
I like
You've been dying to say
Stampede
that
better.
all week.
The Broncos
Stampede
mascot.
is better.
We should call him Stampede.
All right, let's get right into it. You want to drop some gems? We're getting into our fantasy portion of the show. And like I said, what we're going to talk about is some guy, what did you call it? Don't forget about me?
Don't forget about me.
So don't forget about me. And we're going to talk about some players that got hurt last season that you guys should keep your eyes out and your ears out for. Like I said, maybe trade for, or, just guys that we think are going to probably overperform what people are projecting them for right now, based on just, out of sight, out of mind. We got a bunch of names up here, some pretty obvious, some less obvious, but let's get into it. Let me hear who you got, Mark. I know you're brimming.
You're gonna come for me first. All right, well, let's do it.
Pause.
There's
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
there's a lot of guys out there that honestly you shouldn't forget about. I'm already 3 drafts deep into next season. I know it's a little early, but that's what you gotta
Lunatic.
That's what you gotta do to stay abreast of this information, so that I can provide you with the most up to date shit you can get your hands on. Get out there and get these guys.
Period. Slade, sis, or
Yeah. The one that I want to highlight is a guy that should probably be obvious, but he is going pretty valuable in drafts right now. Obviously, again, because it's early, and it was due to the fact that he went out of the season very early on, and the ineptitude of that offense
7
Could-
years to get to it, huh?
could have potentially made you forget about him altogether, and that's Javonte Williams.
There you go.
Now, his first year, he had the split time with Melvin Gordon, looked fantastic. He's finally going to get the nod as the guy. Week 2, he goes down with injury. Week 1, he kind of saved himself with those 11 receptions, saving his fantasy line, which gave you, obviously hope of him being a pass catching back. Goes down week 2. Then we all know what happens, right? Russ is totally inept. That offense did not perform how it should have. And just everything goes to the wayside, making that team very, very forgettable. But do not forget about Javonte Williams. Now, paired with the information that we just got about 2 hours ago, Sean Payton signing with the Broncos after a trade that happened with the Saints to allow him to go to Denver.
That's right.
He's going to, he's going to open this offense back up. And I think that Russell Wilson he should rebound. And I think he probably will. And I think that with the weapons that they have, Javonte Williams, when he comes back healthy, is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Don't forget about him. Get him in your later early rounds and put him on your team, man. He's going to do you some. He's going to do you some good. He's going to win you some games this year.
Here's what I like about the Sean Payton signing for Javonte Williams is that he was able to highlight Kamara in New Orleans, but he did it in a non-conventional way. Now, Javonte is more of a traditional runner, but I do like that he made him the focal point of the offense, but it was creative. It wasn't predictable, and I think he could do some of the same things. I'd also look out for whoever's the change of pace back in Denver to kind of maybe stash as a guy that you can, in PPR leagues might be pretty valuable with Sean Payton coming in.
Guess who that is right now?
Who?
Mr. Chase Edmonds.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I trust the touch, of Sean Payton when it comes to Chase Edmonds. I think he'll get the most out of him.
Chase isn't bad either.
No, he's not. He over projects him every year.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
the
talk
golden
about
boy.
a guy that you wanted to talk about, and guy that I've said on these airwaves that I'm a big fan of because he just likes to bet. And I like a guy that likes to bet. I mean, it is what it is, Calvin Ridley. And I think in a great situation, regardless of what you have to say about T-Law being a bust, he had a good year. I think as soon as he gets on the field, he's challenging to be the number 1 wide receiver. His last full season goes for 1,300 yards, 90 catches, 9 touchdowns. That's a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. And I think the value you're going to get for him, especially if you're in one of these keeper dynasty leagues and you could make a trade for him before he's back on everybody's radar, would be a great move. And I still think he'll be a little undervalued coming into your regular redrafts because I just think the amount of names that are out there at the wide receiver position without even the rookies that are going to get drafted, I still think you get him at decent value, and I think he could wind up being one of the old Calvin Ridley, hopefully, if everything upstairs is going well.
Yeah, the time is definitely now to strike with Calvin Ridley. I think if your league is a year-round league, like now is the time, like you said. I'll keep the wide receiver train going. I think Darnell Mooney is in for a good year. I think you're going to get him at the same that same round that you got him in maybe this year, but he'll actually produce a lot better, of course. He's coming off a high ankle sprain, I believe. It's an ankle injury that he'll be back from. He's going to be back with Luke Getsy second year. He's going to be with Justin Fields, who will be a better runner and a better thrower.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that there's going to be a lot there. I mean, I was on the ball with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk and Darnell Mooney were my sweethearts last year. Kirk, obviously, he did well.
He played well.
He played in the top 12, I think, of receivers. I think you can get Mooney in the top 20, honestly.
I'll let you talk about it a little bit. Don't go crazy. But I think Mooney is going to benefit from Claypool being there a whole off season, get really integrated into the offense. Because I think we said it before the season. We all had high hopes for Mooney. But I think we were all a little, maybe not you. I know we were a little sketchy on whether he could carry the load as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, which is fair.
I still think it's not fair to say he can't because I don't think he had a true number 2 until the trade deadline. And I don't really think Claypool, even though he's not consistent, his history is not consistent, but I don't think he really got to put his stamp or, be integrated into the offense. And I also think, like you mentioned earlier, that I think they're going to get themselves a nice little wiggly back, that could
unflappable wiggly back.
Yeah, but I think they do. I think they need a dynamic guy out of the backfield. And I think that'll help too with Justin, and you get a little more of that RPO.
Yep.
Open things up. I like Mooney.
Yeah, I do too. And I think they're going to target somebody. They're going to bring somebody else into camp as well that could potentially, take some targets off of Fields. They're set up not dissimilar to a lot of the better offenses that underperformed, and it's in large part due to that offensive line. That offensive line was just shit, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of set up like Denver's set up. Monty's probably going to walk. Chicago doesn't typically like to re-sign their RB1s.
I don't think they should.
No, and they don't have to. They have Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is a fantastic receiving back.
And he looked better at points this year.
Yeah,
And he's young. He's 24.
24, and he's got a very similar style to Javonte Williams. Then you have Darnell Mooney coming back. You have Chase Claypool, who we talk about guys with their heads screwed on, right? If he comes back and he's humble, Chase Claypool can be a threat in that offense. And now you put another dynamic outside guy and maybe bring Mooney into the slot.
Yeah.
With Kmet drawing linebacker coverage away from him, Mooney can be dangerous.
Here's what I'll say though for the Bears, not to prolong this anymore, but I do, for me as an outsider looking in, I hope that they don't go and add a piece like they need a piece to compete. Like I hope they don't get like the cherry on top this year for their roster. I'm hoping they take that money and they start building the offensive defense.
Yeah.
I think Claypool, you made your play
Splash,
last year.
yeah.
I think you go get a serviceable running back to go along with Herbert, and then maybe you draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round at the wide receiver that has upside, and you start building the interior of that offense, because your defense was pretty terrible for a Bears team. That's your hallmark.
Getting rid of Roquan really devastated us.
You couldn't pay him. You shouldn't pay him.
Jack Sanborn stepped up though. Jack Sanborn did a fantastic job there. But to your point, I don't want to see them go out and get a D-Hop. I wouldn't be mad if they kind of use some of their draft capital and finagle the deal to bring Devontae Adams into town. I don't think that would necessarily be terrible, but I think that they could, with that value of that first pick, get a lot more. I think they could honestly trade back, get 2 first-round picks out of it, get the defensive help that they need, and potentially score another young playmaker.
Ryan Poles will really see what he's made of this year.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. You haven't seen Claypool and Mooney really on the same field for long. Worst case scenario, Claypool takes a body on defense.
Yeah.
And Mooney is going to be that much better. I mean, it's basic math.
All right, so there's some other names up here. I'll throw a couple out. I mean, you're obvious. I think one that's not as obvious, because I think he's been gone for so long that I still think has value, is Mike Thomas. But, you got your Kupps, your Murrays. I think Deshaun Watson's interesting, like Rocky said.
Yeah.
Breece Hall, no-brainer. Darren Waller, who I think had a down year, I still think he's going to be a guy that you could pencil in as a top 5
If he gives
tight
up,
end.
if he gives up the smack and the rapping,
That's true. But who's the other guy? I keep forgetting his name. The little whites.
Renfro?
There you go. I think Renfro has a bounce back year too.
Did you call him the little whites?
The little white.
Wow.
I was gonna say the little white scat receiver they have. I
Wow.
forget his name. He's white, right?
Wes
He
Welker.
is. Another guy, Jamison Williams.
Jameson Williams.
I think coming off of that horrific injury in the championship game 2 years ago, and then we kind of see, we saw a flash in the pan at the end of this season.
Yeah.
Don't forget about him. You're going to be able to get him dirt cheap, and he could potentially be the number 2 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown in that offense.
Yeah. A guy that hasn't played in the NFL yet, but it might be like worth your last pick in the draft is John Mechie.
Yeah, I like that pick too.
I do. I was big on John Mechie coming
was
into
I.
the season.
Yeah, he has a real chance, and I like the hiring of D'Amico Ryans.
I want to see
in
what they do
Houston.
at QB. They got to draft a guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, do they keep Brandon Cooks?
No, I think Cooks wants out, right?
Yeah, but are
Cooks wants
they gonna let him?
I think Cooks might end up being a chip in the pie if they do have to trade up to that first spot with Chicago.
Where are they at right now? 2?
2.
I think
That could
you should.
happen.
Why would you
Chicago
trade
is
up.
because Chicago is using that as leverage. Now you're hearing that they're shopping Fields and possibly taking
not
Young.
shopping Fields.
No,
It's
it's all smoke, but it's so that it generates some interest
Yeah.
from these teams that have two picks in this first round.
Would you be
That's
happy with CJ
real-
Stroud at 2 though, and not giving up the assets?
I don't know. Would they be? I don't know.
I mean,
Ohio State quarterbacks don't typically pan out in the NFL.
yeah, okay. That's
Yeah, just look at
ironic
that.
that you're saying
No.
that.
I know.
All right.
I know it is, and it hurts to say it, but they don't.
Oh, you're right. All right, so let's move on to our pressing issues. Pressing
pressing issues. What's the issue? If there's issues, we gonna press them.
Yeah, come on down. Hey, baby, ready. Bad at doing all this.
Where even is he? Where is he
I
today?
don't know.
Probably recording drops.
In a dark, like quiet room.
That's why he's not here. He's mad that we're not recording new drops.
That's his favorite thing.
We've gotten away from the drops.
He wishes
All
he was a
right.
DJ.
So after, like I said, just a weird game. It was a weird game. And what happened to Purdy? It seems like Kyle Shanahan just wants to get all his quarterbacks hurt. I mean, all three of these guys banged up. I think there's a lot of stuff up in there. And I think a lot of stuff in the NFL in general kind of weighs in the balance of how things are going to go in the offseason. But we'll start with Trey Lance. Now, it's well noted what they gave up to get Trey Lance.
Yeah.
What they gave up on their own roster, on their own roster. Is he back in play as like the guy? We'll get to Purdy in a minute, but the reports are that he may need Tommy John, may miss the whole season, may miss half of it if he doesn't need to get the Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
So, Lance, where are we at?
I'm on the side of you have to Jordan Love strat Trey Lance
Okay.
because there's not enough. Say the 49ers trade Trey Lance right now, they're getting maybe like a fourth of what they got for him.
Yes.
Or what they traded for him. So you have to keep him, and at least if you don't even let the kid play, you have to let like that speculation grow and then maybe trade him.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the camp of keeping, without getting too much into everything else. I was on the camp of keeping Purdy and Lance.
Yeah.
But the more I think about it, and this is kind of Colin Cowherd light, I heard him talk about this earlier today, to where Debo's only played one full season healthy. CMC in running back years is on the last few seasons, and all they need is a healthy quarterback to maintain that team. George Kittle's turning 30.
They got to win now. That's for
So
sure.
you might trade one of these guys, but it's just a question of who you trade. And you can't trade Lance because you're getting maybe a pick or two for him.
I'll make a quick point because I'm going to be fast. I think Lance, I say he stays, obviously. I don't think you could trade him. His value is almost nothing right now, and you gave up so much to get him, and there's no way that you could let him. You're going to be trading him for like a 6th round pick or something. I mean, you're not going to get anything for him.
Yeah. And I think unfortunately the odd man out
Strange noise.
is probably I was clearing my throat.
Hey.
I think the odd man out is probably Jimmy G here. I think we're going to be looking at that Jimmy G market again during the offseason.
I mean, he's a
which
free
is-
agent, so like there really is that market this time.
Yeah. And every year it seems to disappoint, right? Every year it just kind of peters out, which probably shows you what Jimmy G really is valued at, obviously. You know what I mean? It's a guy that they shouldn't have any quarrels with letting go. And it's a shame. I mean, he was pretty efficient. I mean, 67% completion
I like Jimmy
percentage.
G.
We're talking about Lance,
touchdowns
though.
to 4.
Lance.
Yeah, get
Oh,
the
it's
pretty
Lance.
face
You're
out your
jumping ahead
brain.
to Garoppolo.
Get the face out your brain.
It's the eyes, dude. I
Yeah.
thought about the eyes, and I just went right there, man. I went to it. I was in the fields right there.
He's got your Jimmy G.
So, with Trey Lance,
But
so like you said, in these types of positions, like Jordan Love's
later.
Jordan Love's predicament, that was a great comparison.
Yeah, you have to Jordan Love the kid.
You have to let him start all 4 preseason games. You have to let him generate that buzz to where you have that quarterback
They
controversy
lost
week
to the
1.
Bears. Like you can't trade him after that.
Kyle Shanahan, you have to, he's not going to commit to a quarterback until Friday, the night before the game. You know, you have to do that with Trey Lance, right? You have to build that hype. Hopefully, Trey Lance plays very well during the preseason and creates a market for himself.
Yeah.
That's only if Purdy does come back. And, we're talking about Purdy like he's the foregone starter, too. I mean,
Well,
the
we're
guy
not
has
talking
a
about
small
Purdy
sample
yet.
size.
Not
Well, now he might not be.
And he might not be, So I think they paid a lot for Trey Lance. I don't think they're going to give up on him just yet.
So you're on board with me.
Yeah.
The one wrong thing with the Jordan Love analogy is that you don't have an Aaron Rodgers,
You don't.
and Jordan Love has never been coming off a really bad knee injury.
Yeah.
Do we know Trey Lance is going to be practicing?
I think Love had a really bad arm injury, though, didn't he?
I don't think you.
What I'm saying is
He just can't throw the ball.
He's
If
saying
you
like you
don't-
don't have the luxury.
He was
you
born
don't-
with it. It was a defect.
All right, listen. If you don't re-sign,
Was it really?
if you don't keep Jimmy Garoppolo in house,
Hey,
which
it sucks.
I don't even think it might not even be about the 49ers anymore. Jimmy G might not just want to sign on to be a backup,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
But if you don't attempt to bring him back, you're coming into the season with a guy that at that point might be missing. I think a lot of it depends on that.
And
But
you're coming back with 2 question marks.
could be out for the whole year, and a guy that you don't know. The reason you drafted him was because he's a dynamic athlete.
Yeah.
You don't know how much of a dynamic athlete he is anymore after that injury.
Yep.
You don't know if he's going to be ready to start in camp. You don't know any of this stuff. So they let him go. They got to bring another one of these proven guys in. I mean, who do you go get? I mean,
Derek
big
Carr.
question mark, and we'll go right to Purdy from
Lamar
that.
Jackson.
If he gets that surgery, has he shown you enough? I mean, I guess you keep him on your roster because you're not paying him shit, right?
Yeah.
So you keep him on the roster, but you're not making any plans as him being your quarterback if he's missing the 2023 season.
So
right? Like you can't.
real quick. So like with his injury, I was hearing this report earlier today that the reason why he's not the reason why, but a reason why that he is seeking a second opinion is because if that first opinion is what it is, then he's going to be out for a shit ton of time,
Yeah.
which puts him it catapults him straight into a backup spot.
He goes back
sure.
to Mr. Irrelevant in
Yes,
the
he
draft.
does.
Is
Yeah.
what happened.
Which is a shame, honestly. Like I like the kid, but I think like in a perfect world, like you're starting Purdy because he's healthy, which isn't the case right now, and then you're keeping Lance as a backup and then trading him for what you can at the peak. I mean, the 49ers are in a tough spot. I think you have to keep Lance, you have to keep Purdy, and I think you just wait until one's
Let
healthy.
me ask you something, so you could roll this into your answer. But best case scenario, he gets the reconstruction, not the Tommy John. When is he able to throw again? And then, so are you coming into camp with both of those guys basically rehabbing back to health?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
Is that
I mean,
best case?
if it's if it's the reconstruction, so if you didn't totally obliterate the tendon, right, and they're able to repair it, it takes time to heal, man. It takes a lot of time to heal, and then you figure all that time without any kind of
Throwing?
exercise, pressure
he'll
on
exercise,
it, throwing.
yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got an uphill battle, and I think this was a product of cold feet, and I feel partially responsible. I think he probably listened to my analysis, me
Yeah.
calling him a franchise quarterback.
No, you're
last
probably
week,
right.
And he was like, I can't handle this. And he goes out there, and now he's Mr. Irrelevant. He was like, why'd you screw that up, man? I was totally fine being
Yeah,
Mr.
we're
Irrelevant.
Can I
over
throw a little-
1 million views on TikTok.
Yeah,
right?
we are 1.1 on one hashtag, 3.4 on the other. I just want to throw a little. Maybe it's a little hot take, a little hot prediction here.
A little spicy.
The news is that the 49ers will try and sign or trade for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't think with the baggage there with his kids being in Miami that happens. I'm thinking they keep Purdy, and I think they get Derek Carr and they let Lance go. They use him for trade fodder.
I think that if Purdy has to get Tommy John and misses the season, I think Tom Brady is back in play to go to San Francisco because the runway's clear now. You got Lance coming off an injury that you could do your Jordan Love strat, right? With Brady there. Purdy is out of sight, out of mind for at least a year and a half, and you let Jimmy Garoppolo walk. So I think that opens things up for Brady. To
The
come.
roster is just too. The roster is so close. They've been NFC Championship like 3 out of the last 5 years, some shit like that.
Yeah.
Their team is getting older, and they're
Yes,
losing.
yeah.
They're losing key pieces
The
of their
window is
coaching staff.
slamming.
They have to put a guy in there that can stay healthy and run the ship. I
What
mean,
do
what
you-
has Derek Carr done? What has Tom Brady done? They've stayed healthy and they've run offenses.
What do you guys think about Joe Montana? He's got those Skechers with the high middles. That is
Should bring Jerry Rice back
his
too.
ass is super toned. I mean, that guy's in
Yeah.
great shape.
T.O. wants to play.
Bring
Get
Joey
T-
back.
We need T.O. in the league. Somebody sign T.O., please. At least just training camp.
Buffalo Bills
imagine?
could use a TO.
He's still fast as shit
Yeah.
and in good shape. I would love to see that. All right, Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's got rock titties now, though.
Based on this is why I left Jimmy Garoppolo last because based on whatever you guys are saying, we all think he's probably. I think they
Nope.
should try to keep him there. I think that they're gonna want to if they don't bring in a Brady or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know that he's gonna want to stay there. So, what does this mean for Garoppolo? We have a few teams up there that are quarterback needy. We know some of the really obvious ones. Where do we see being a fit for Jimmy Garoppolo next year?
I mean, Garoppolo could go to the Bucks if Tom Brady walks.
And a sleeper that I didn't write up there, I'm going to throw in the mix too, is the Rams. Because I don't know
If Stafford's
the
coming back.
status. He wants to come back. but they're already talking retirement. He had to announce that he was coming back because retirement's in the air, and I don't know. He's got an elbow issue too, so we don't know where that's going to
These
stand.
damn elbows.
Just saying.
I think Jimmy G would best be set up in Tampa Bay because he'd already be instant plug and play, dynamic playmakers around him, right? So if they have Evans, Godwin, Fournette, Rashad White,
Yeah.
everybody, if they're able to keep everybody still in house, I think that probably sets them up the best out of these teams here. The other ones, I mean, are you really going to want to go through a rebuild with Washington, New Orleans, Carolina, Indianapolis with
I think
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Indy is tailor made for Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Just following the long lineage of
Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz,
Matt Ryan. He
Jesus
lines up.
Christ. Colts fans have to be on watch after that shit.
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles, yeah, you're not
Foles.
wrong.
So, but I mean, it being
Probably Mike Glennon.
I do think I do think Aaron Rodgers. I think the Jets going to make a major play for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I think it's all going to come down to whether Rodgers wants to play there
Mm-hmm.
and whether they could get a guarantee that it's going to be for more than 1 year. There's 2 years left on that deal, but he could always walk, and I think they're going to have some assurances. But if that doesn't happen, I do like the Jets for Jimmy Garoppolo because that defense last year was good enough. They got playmakers all over the field, and I think reuniting with Rob Saleh, that was in San Fran, that knows him. I think that's a nice landing spot. They need a steady hand. They got nothing at quarterback last year, and they were still challenging for a playoff spot. So I think that makes sense too.
I like Lamar. I like Lamar to go to
Lamar's
the Jets.
staying
I
in
think he's
Baltimore.
getting franchise
Yeah,
tag.
they're going to
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah, that's a big tag, $32 million.
The big thing
He's their franchise.
Yeah. The interesting part about this offseason is that Garoppolo can really pick his decision. Like you don't have to trade for the kid. Like the Jets and the Bucks look very interesting because those are teams that Jimmy Garoppolo can insert himself into and do decent.
Yeah.
Washington, I think, is a little bit out of the question. The Panthers are out of the question. Saints and Raiders, I definitely don't think will take a Jimmy Garoppolo because they haven't really done that. And the Saints with having Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, like what you gotta not do that shit again.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Colts are in I think the Colts actually might do the smart thing for once and get a quarterback that they can have for the next 5 years instead of
Who's
1
the
to
team
2.
that makes a move to get a quarterback in the first round this year?
The Saints. The Saints, like, what do you have with the guys you have currently? You can't sign a Jimmy
Do they
Garoppolo.
have the
The
resources
Texans.
to do that?
They
They
do
just
now.
got some, yeah. That's true. They could make a play.
Yeah, the Texans obviously at 2 are going to
can-
go quarterback.
Could we see the Saints jumping up to 1?
It'd be tall. It'd be a tall task.
Given a truckload, given a couple first, Kamara.
Kamara and a couple first. I'm on
to the
board.
Bears.
I could see that happening.
that's
they
not
need
bad.
to. Peyton goes and signs with Denver. You're kind of in no man's land right now. You need a spark, right?
Yeah.
How? I mean, what
think-
a move that would be.
I mean, I think
Where
the
are
Raiders
the
too.
Saints right now? Where are they
That's-
drafted?
that's- bold.
Saints. The only thing I know about the Saints is that the Eagles have their first pick and it's in the top 10, so they don't even own that. I don't know where they even draft at this point.
NFL.
I think the Raiders too are another team because the Raiders have a little bit of an older offense with Darren Waller and Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, who are all on second or third contracts, and you just
Waller
lost.
that old?
Waller's been in the league for a little bit, and he's coming off a pretty. I mean, the injury kept him out of the season. They've had the same quarterback for the last 7, 8, maybe 9 years, and they
So
need a guy that they can build around. I think.
They just got Denver's 1, right?
Yeah, they got Denver's 1 and then 2024 seconds.
So Denver's 1, but I thought Seattle had Denver's 1.
Denver picks at 29.
Ugh, it's not
Yeah,
that
they
good.
okay. That's not great.
It's not great.
So now that's the
That's
Saints.
the only one that they have.
Yeah, because they gave us their first.
You could give a future one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can see,
That seemed exciting for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wow. I think the Panthers. I think they stand pat with Darnold.
I think Indy at 4.
Indy
I think Indy.
Indy.
I think India at 4 probably goes quarterback
They have to.
at 4.
Who's there at 4 for them?
So let's see. Young will probably be off the board.
I think Stroud.
Stroud won't go to the Cardinals. So Bears aren't going quarterback. Texans are. Cardinals aren't going quarterback.
So
more
Young
than
and Stroud
likely.
are
Yeah,
gone.
but your count. I think so.
And that's if nobody trades up, obviously.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. I don't think the Bears are making a pick at 1.
And then you got, who's the third quarterback? Will Levis, right? Isn't that who they're saying is coming off the board?
Yeah.
Breaking
You think
news:
anybody-
random white quarterback is getting talked about before NFL draft gets drafted before he's supposed to and
You don't
becomes a
think-
bust.
Well, I think it's all
What
quarterback.
happened with Josh Allen, too? And look what happened there.
Stetson
It
Bennett?
happened with
You don't
Zach
think
Wilson,
he gets?
too.
I think he gets a look, Stetson Bennett, but he's probably around.
Well, he's
too.
also, I think right now he's arrested. You heard about that? He had public
Yeah.
indecency for being drunk.
And Indianapolis would be a great
Just the
landing
guy.
spot for him, too.
Just
because
being a guy.
I think he's probably got 1 year left in his career, right, before retirement.
Who's
Yeah,
this?
maybe.
Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, probably.
Hilarious.
Man's almost turned
You know what he
30.
reminds me of? What's that guy that
The Stetson Bennett memes are the
the
greatest
Cowboys
memes.
drafted?
Oh, man, I don't know.
You know who I'm talking about? The redhead.
Not Cooper Rush, right?
No, not Cooper Rush. This is before Cooper Rush.
Oh,
You know who
the
I'm
dude
talking
from
about.
Boise State.
Yeah. What's
The
his
coordinator now.
Name? Yeah.
Oh,
he-
Kellen Moore?
Yeah, Kellen Moore.
You know he got fired. He's on the Chargers
No,
now.
not Kellen Moore.
He's not
Was
redhead.
it Kellen Moore?
Kellen Moore's
Kellen-
not redhead.
Kellen Moore was, I think he was drafted by Dallas.
It wasn't him.
No.
It wasn't him. It was
Kellen
another
Moore
guy.
was drafted by
no,
Dallas,
Oh, Brandon Whedon.
Oh, yeah.
The Browns drafted him,
Yeah,
right?
oh,
And then he went to the Cowboys.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that guy. He was like 28 when they drafted him.
Man, that's crazy because the
Jesus.
Browns are usually
He
really
does.
good at drafting quarterbacks.
Oh yeah. Well, you know who's even better? The Broncos.
Cream of the crop.
Paxton Lynch.
And in
Jesus Christ.
Chicago.
I mean, we're reminiscing now. What about Brock Osweiler, huh? Brocktober.
Do you remember when the graphics came out that the Texans got Osweiler? They had Osweiler, Lamar Miller, and Hopkins. It was like
Yeah,
the
the
trifecta
trio, yeah.
offense. Yeah.
Well, Osweiler had some big games though. He had that playoff game.
Well, anyone
right?
that-
in the snow against the Patriots.
Wasn't he? What was he like 6'9" or something? Wasn't he?
Well, yeah,
was-
but anybody that's that and then sits behind Peyton Manning for a few years is like gonna have a massive fucking contract. He had like the biggest contract at the time.
He was a long neck. Yeah, he was a Davis Mills, Mike
Mike
Glennon.
Glennon.
Just
Nick
what the
Foles.
Texans ordered. Yeah. Well,
All
that's
right,
that.
That's it. Hey, let's wrap it up.
Pod picks.
Pod pigs. Yeah. So I mean, this thing's over, huh?
It's a 2-dog race here.
Well,
so
it's actually like right neck and neck, isn't
Yeah.
it?
essentially, the best, a tie. There can be a tie. So Zach's got a 2-point lead on Rocky, which I think that Zach has to pick first, and Rocky obviously takes the opposite. I mean, that's what's got to happen.
Okay.
That's
No,
the
I
only
think-
way it can work.
I think they should both. I think one of them should text me. and
Pick
one should
anonymously?
text you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we
and
can
then
do
we
that.
announce it
Oh,
on
but
the
we
show.
can. Oh, so we're not saying it on the show
We'll say it on the show. I think we just don't send them
Next
in the
time?
chat.
Because you can pull.
or now.
Oh, we do it next week.
You have some thinking to do,
Yeah,
though,
'cause
my
the line,
friend.
I already
the
know
line
what I'm
can
picking.
move. The line can move,
but
though.
here,
You guys know my pattern. I've been
Think
throwing
about
the last
this.
4 weeks. I've had like the fucking lead of the century, and I've been
You've-
taking against the Eagles the entire
You've
time.
got to
Big
think
brain
about
in
this, though, because Rocky already knows that. So that means that Rocky's definitely planning on taking the Eagles and knowing that you're not going to
Good.
take them, therefore giving him a chance to tie you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to outsmart him. You
Unlike
gotta
the
take your
NFL,
Eagles.
unlike the NFL, this
There's-
shit is fucking scripted. I'm not picking the Eagles in any type of favorite fashion. If there's like a random report that Leonard Dickinson is not playing in the Super Bowl, then they drop to a fucking half-point underdog. I'm taking them at that point. But
What if the
Yeah.
Jets were in the Super Bowl? Would you bet on the Jets?
yes, I would because I'm not a Jets fan.
So recount. So
I'm a Jets supporter.
This year, we went from.
Yeah, we should recap that.
It's been a crazy year. I think. I mean, you've been in the back the whole year.
But,
Firmly.
week 3 is when it happened. By the way, I looked back at it.
Fourth place confirmed.
I legitimately, I look at the spreads like when we get here, like I put zero thought into it.
I mean, so do I. but I mean, you know,
we're all kind of doing it.
I put my thought into fantasy. I mean, that's why I'm
Hey, it's
here.
not a criticism. I'm just recapping. Listen, I
You know
had a
what?
lead.
Screw you
I
guys.
had a lead and I lost the lead. I was in front of Rocky and Zach.
Yeah, you
They-
really
they
fucking
both-
blew it.
Yeah, they stalked me, and I blew it so hard, and you still are like 11 points away from me.
No, I think it's only 9 now.
Oh, after last
I
week?
think if
I don't know. I don't
superstition
remember.
didn't like run my life in the playoffs, I would have like at least an 8-point lead over Rocky, and I'd be kicking my feet back
I
right
think
now.
me trying not to be biased hurt me because I kept not picking the Giants because
Yeah, well, that's what
emotions
yeah.
are involved. So I always
Oh.
think I'm going to make the wrong.
Well, the
choice.
Giants and the what was the other team? The
Giants
Giants
covered
and
all
somebody
year.
else were the best teams against the spread. Yeah, I think they were like 16 and like 2 or some shit like
Let's
that.
pick the Pro Bowl. Who you got, Peyton or Eli's team?
I got Peyton.
I'm going
Yeah,
Peyton. I can't.
I'm going Eli.
I can't root for Eli.
Yeah, I get it. I'm going Eli. We'll get Rocky's pick.
I'm going with the only Peyton, the only Manning worth worth a pick.
Well, it's a win-win because Eli's captaining the NFC and none of the Eagles are playing, so I have no reason to root for the NFC.
Who's the NFC quarterbacks?
Oh, dude, I don't know. I can tell you the AFC.
Geno Smith.
I'm interested to see how the flag football thing goes.
I just had it up a little bit.
I wish they would
little
just
bit
do
ago.
the QB. I don't care what QBs you get. You do the QB competition again, I'm all in.
Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff.
There it is.
Jalen Hurts, but is in the Super Bowl, so bigger
But
priorities.
I would like to see the QB competition. I don't care. You get any 6-7 NFL quarterbacks and get them out there, throwing at the target. That's just good. That's a good time.
yeah, but Pro
Yeah.
Bowls mean nothing now.
I don't care about the
No,
Pro
those
Bowl. I'm talking
skills
about the
challenges,
competition.
I love-
No, I'm okay, but like when we talk about, oh, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame, 16 Pro Bowls, like in 20 years, that shit won't matter.
They were
Yeah.
they were replaying some of the old quarterback competitions, not even from the Pro Bowl. Remember when they used to do it? They would
That's
just
what I'm
randomly
talking
do
about.
it like in Hawaii.
I'm
like,
talking about Hawaii when they did it every year.
yeah.
Yeah, they always put them on the NFL network.
Yeah, now they play them. They replay them on like ESPN 35 or whatever. And
The
you catch 'em
skills challenge now is okay, but those QB competitions were the shit.
I hope
yeah.
they do a
Who
QB
could throw the ball the
competition.
furthest? Like it was literally
Yeah.
a swinging dick contest.
And then, but what was great about it is they had all 6-7 of those guys there, mic'd up.
yeah,
They're all watching each other throw, comments on the throw, the targets, and it was just more like now it's too produced for TV. Like
Yeah.
it was more reality TV back then. The way
remember,
they did it.
My favorite part's when Kirk Cousins goes in the accuracy challenge and like misses like the first like 6 throws.
I liked Jeff George back in the day. He like unleashed
Cannon.
like an 84-yard bomb,
ridiculous.
and
Jesus.
then with his John Daly physique.
Jeff Blake too. You remember Jeff Blake?
Yeah.
He threw it like 60. No,
I think he threw
like
over 70 some yards.
Yeah, he launched it. Yeah, those are good times.
They were good times.
All right, well, that's the show, right? We'll save our. I said we were gonna make the picks today, but it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Why don't
Because
you-
mine could move.
Oh, you guys don't? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I
Next
mean-
week, yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess we can make him. It doesn't really
Nah,
matter.
we
right?
should wait.
Besides,
we
you
should
gotta let Rocky stew in it, man. You gotta let him. He's overthinking this right now.
He's like, oh, if he takes that, then we can't take the same
That's
thing
right. You
because
gotta-
then
you
that's
just gotta
a
drop
tie.
Well,
hints.
you might by mistake, and that's
Actually, I
fair.
would like for him to take the same thing because then I win by 2 points. So
Yeah.
he has to take. I
Well,
see what Mark's saying.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
You're so wow. You just figured that out. That's
Yeah.
why we were saying do it
Dude,
anonymously.
you're so sharp,
Well,
man. Nothing gets by
well,
you.
well, all that shit doesn't matter because my pick doesn't change. I can tell you what I was
Well,
picking
you
the
just
second it happened.
double-
Because you're
doubling
saying
down.
that.
Yeah.
Stop saying that shit.
Yeah,
dude.
but what if
You
I'm
didn't know
reverse
that.
psychologing this right now as we speak? What if we're in the 4th fucking dimension?
Hey, let's call Webster's. We got a new word, psychologian.
Psychology.
Psychologian. It's a-
Reverse psychology.
I'm a reverse psychologian. That's a double.
Yeah, that was fat fingers. All right. So that's the show. Zach, tell them where to find us.
GON Podcasts on TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, on everywhere. Link in the description for Chalkboard. We talk about fantasy football 24/7.
Yeah.
And you should have a conversation with us. We might help you win a league.
Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. We love you. Peace.